imperative, but also an investment in the stability and progress of our democracy.
House members seek strong laws for reforms and accountability in governance. NUPRC unveils measures to increase crude oil production by 1 million barrels per day.
It's a legacy that this president will leave as good as creating the infrastructure at the beginning of oil production in this country.
National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons goes tough on implementation of 2022-2026 National Action Plan.
Through this platform, we seek to ensure that our work remains targeted, effective, and in line with the global best practices.
Alan, welcome to the Network News on NTA. I'm Naja'atu Tijani. Joining us tonight from Lagos is Michael Olaleye, and as usual, Musa Abubakar here in our Abuja studios has highlights from the world of business. Musa?
Equities market begin the week in positive territory as oil prices rise nearly 2%.
All right, we'll look forward to the details. And in the sports arena, Bade Adele has details roundup of the Premier Football League.
All right, Najatu, the biggest one is that Rivers United are back on top of the Nigeria Premier Football League after the conclusion of match day 8.
All right, we're looking forward to details. Remember that this broadcast is streaming live on our Facebook and YouTube channels, and you can follow us across social media as well. A strong legislature is crucial to driving national reforms and ensuring accountability in democratic governance. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, stated this while presenting the Parliamentary Development Program of the House to development and technical partners in Abuja. National Assembly correspondent Mitaire Ikben reports on this and other engagements of the Parliament.
The Parliamentary Development Program aims to strengthen legislative capacity of federal lawmakers for promoting sustainable development in the country. Speaker Tajuddin Abbas seeks support from the United Nations Development Program and the Diplomatic Corps to drive the ambitious legislative agenda of the 10th Assembly, which he says aligns with the reforms of the Tinubu administration.
Historically, the legislature has been under-resourced and underdeveloped, especially compared to the executive and judiciary. Therefore, strengthening the legislature is not only imperative, but also an investment in the stability and progress of our democracy.
The Parliamentary Development Program matters not only for Nigeria's development imperatives, but for the African region. As the largest democracy in Africa, if Nigeria succeeds, Africa succeeds and the world progresses.
Meanwhile, during an oversight to the Naval Headquarters, members of the House Committee on Navy demanded access to more data from the Naval Command to enable lawmakers ascertain judicious use of budgetary allocations to the Nigerian Navy.
Interventions, other source of funding, particularly as it pertains to all the Naval Command's unit forward operation bases and what have you, including the Navy holding the naval dockyards.
Our activities are offshore, at sea. And of course, you need to have a third eye for you to know what is happening at sea. That is how it applies in all areas of our activities, both in terms of our resources that we require.
The committee emphasized the need for better collaboration between the Navy and Parliament to boost productivity and enhance service delivery. Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
And speaking on boosting productivity, the federal government is determined to leverage Nigeria's oil and gas to diversify the country's economic growth. President Bola Tinubu says this has necessitated reforms on assumption of office to reposition the sector for sustainability. Lydia Sampson reports that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, is applauding the actionable commitment for an additional 1 million barrels per day by key players in the industry.
The unveiling of the 1 million barrels per day initiative, as well as the anniversary book, as the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission turns 3, it is committed to navigating challenges and collaborate industry players to increase crude oil production.
A renewed drive for economic diversification using the oil and gas industry as a pivot remains on track as we expand government revenue and deploy it to generate employment, eliminate poverty, and grow our gross domestic product.
What are we doing now that is making us to underperform? What new investments do we need to make so that first of all we can go back to 2.4 million barrels that Nigeria achieved during COVID?
The PIA has empowered the Commission to implement progressive policies that align with the country's aspiration for both energy transition and economic diversification.
In keeping with our vision, the Commission has rallied African petroleum regulators to foster collaboration and address the common challenges of resource sustainability and energy security in Africa. This is a legacy that this president will leave, as good as creating the infrastructure at the beginning of oil production in this country.
The Chief of Naval Staff and other key players reiterated the critical role of protecting the oil and gas upstream infrastructure on the maritime environment for optimal crude oil production. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
Still on production and productivity, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, is partnering the National Judicial Institute to ensure a more equitable tax system by creating awareness to combat tax evasion and avoidance, which undermine national interests. The event, which took place in Abuja, had as its theme taxation in digital economy, challenges and opportunities. Boss Sede Abel Amosu reports that the purpose of the conference is to leverage the judiciary to strengthen tax compliance for economic growth.
We have to get prepared, and this conference is one of such areas that we look at getting ourselves prepared for next year, where so many things will come on board, including the new laws that is expected to be enforced for January 2025.
Meanwhile, the service has met its 2024 revenue target of 19.41 trillion naira, surpassing its 2023 target by 816 billion naira, having generated about 12.37 trillion naira. Meanwhile, the federal government has formally launched the reconstruction of parts of the Abuja Kaduna Highway utilizing concrete technology. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, performed the ceremony, reiterating the commitment of the federal government to bring succor to travelers along that corridor.
If tomorrow belongs to this set, then here is democracy in action.
As Parliament, we promise to do our part.
It's the latest move by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to strike the nail on the coffin of the slow pace of works on the Abuja-Kaduna highway, which has been a pool of frustration to motorists.
There have been kidnapping, there have been a lot of traffic jams on this road. The President of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, does not want to hear that. And so we presented the option of balkanizing the road into 3, which we have done, and he approved it.
Now the main contractor, Julius Berger, has been asked to hands up some sections of the highway and is immediately awarded to other contractors with work starting immediately.
Mr. President has mustered the political will and courage to revoke the contract and re-award it to contractors under tax credit.
To make travel easier for commuters during these reconstruction, massive palliative works have commenced. And for failing to meet the terms of contract, here is a message to Julius Berger.
Our position is that we are not increasing this contract for Julius Berger beyond 740 billion, and that this game is supposed to be over. and the game must be over. I've invited them for a meeting tomorrow. If they are not doing it, we will terminate the job and we get people to do it.
The Kaduna-Abuja part of the highway has continued to suffer delays in the ongoing reconstruction with colossal loss to citizens. Abdullah Mohammed, NTA News.
The three-day Russia-Africa Consortium Summit, organized by the UNESCO Center and Russia Consortium in Subsoil Activities, has ended in St. Petersburg, with the Nigerian contingent made up of vice-chancellors coming up with far-reaching positives. Charles Alpha reports.
The challenges in soil protection and inadequate human and institutional capacity, experience to plan and implement subsoil activities to optimally mitigate and monitor the productive and degradative status of the soils gave rise to the just-ended Russia-Africa Consortium Summit at St. Petersburg University of Mining. Professor Ahmed Abubakar Kano and a host of Nigerian vice-chancellors, 46 of them led by the Secretary General, Committee of Vice-Chancellors of Nigerian universities, attended the summit in a bid to find answers to some burning questions.
We really need to come together and understand that this is our own, this is our resource, this is what God has given us, and we need to take it a lot more seriously.
The summit, which focused on sovereignty and subsoil regime in Africa, had academia, industrialists, and government officials from 10 African countries.
Now we have our AMREC. Incidentally, somebody from Nigeria is in Addis Ababa. Arekosola is the head.
Of particular interest for this Nigerian delegation were the knowledge deal, government's regulatory framework, and how Nigeria can develop its mining sector.
One of the things about this summit I went to St. Petersburg Mining University, they are ready to train our students. There is a plan for staff exchange.
Nigeria has been given the right to host the Africa Subsoil Summit in May 2025. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Borno State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Hawa Abubakar says the Ministry of Justice is bent on rebuilding facilities within the judicial system destroyed by the flood in Maiduguri and environs, in addition to renovating structures which are in deplorable condition. The Commissioner said this when she led principal officers of the ministry on an assessment tour of courts ravaged by the flood, in addition to other facilities requiring urgent intervention within the judiciary. Abubakar Musa reports.
The assessment tour of courts ravaged by the 9th September flood disaster in Borno can best be described as a deliberate move by the State Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice Hawa Abubakar towards ensuring effective dispensation of justice, as well as other critical issues within the judiciary, in line with the policy thrust of Governor Babagana Umara. The assessment tour, the Commissioner explained, will give the Justice Ministry a better direction to carry out the needed intervention soon. The development, she added, will also serve as a paradigm shift for a more robust judicial system in Borno.
The essence of this tour is for us to take assessment and see how the state government will intervene to see that those courts that need to be rehabilitated gets rehabilitated, those that lacks furnitures to be provided with furnitures and other essential tools for dispensation of justice.
While praying against recurrence of the flood disaster and other natural and man-made calamities, Hawa Abubakar reaffirmed determination to continue putting in her best within the judiciary and beyond. In Maiduguri, Abubakar Musa, NTA News.
In a closely related but separate development, humanity, compassion and care for one another, irrespective of religion, politics and culture, are needed for Nigerians to unite for prosperity. This is being demonstrated as people from all regions of Nigeria troop to sympathize with Jigawa State over the recent petrol tanker explosion, which claimed close to 200 lives in Majia Town, Taura local government area. Muhammad Musa Askira reports.
The Tuesday night petrol tanker explosion has killed about 200 breadwinners of families in Major Town and beyond, and for those families, life will never be the same again. Out of sympathy to the victims, government and the entire people of Jigawa State, people all over Nigeria are coming in to commiserate and condole the entire state over the sad incidents. As part of this, the chairman Northern Governors Forum and Governor of Gombe State Yahya Inua has led other governors on behalf of the entire governors in the region to Jigawa with 50 million naira donation from each of the northern states.
I want to express our deepest commiseration with you and the entire people of Jigawa State over this sad development.
Coming along with the Northern Governors delegation is the CEO of the Imeka Efo Foundation from the East, who donated 150 million naira to the Jigawa government. Earlier, the Kano State Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf, on a similar visit, has donated 100 million naira to the Jigawa State government for the upkeep of the survivors and the families of the deceased.
We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant their respective souls Al-Jannatul Firdaus.
On his part, the CEO of Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, has announced the donation of 1 million naira to each of the close to 200 persons that died in the petrol fire, while 250,000 naira to each of those receiving treatments at the hospital.
It's a very flammable item, especially PMS. So we will try and do quite a lot of enlightenment so that people will be careful.
60 to 70% of those affected are youth between the ages of 18 and 35. So it's a real serious road lost and it's very devastating.
Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
Kindly pardon us for not warning you about some of the distressing visuals in that report. And still to come, barriers to accessibility of justice for persons with disabilities at Stakeholder National Dialogue in Abuja. Details when Network News returns. Stay tuned.
The Presidential Livestock.
Thanks for staying tuned. We're talking security matters now, and in view of evolving global security threats, stakeholders are developing a comprehensive combat strategy through the Defense and Security Management Course 8 at the National Defense College, Abuja, which is providing participants with analytical tools and strategic foresight necessary to navigate the dynamics of the environment.
The encounter are no longer confined within the national borders, but transcend into the realm of cyberspace, terrorism, insurgency, and other forms of unconventional warfare, among others. It's imperative that we equip ourselves with the knowledge, expertise, and capabilities to build the cross-cutting professionalism required to tackle these obstacles to our national security.
To train members of the armed forces, other paramilitary, and other MDAs at a very high level on alternative to military intervention. This is an entirely a non-kinetic approach to issue of defense, to issue of security.
The course is designed for mid-level officers in the armed forces, selected ministries and departments. Meanwhile, the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has convened a meeting to address the urgent issue of human trafficking under the project From Policy to Action by implementing the National Action Plan on Human Trafficking in Nigeria 2022 to 2026. The policy-level meeting brings together government, non-governmental organizations and international partners. Amina Baba Suleiman reports.
Escalating human trafficking cases in Nigeria present concern for the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, with particular focus on victimization of women and children. In response to this disturbing trend, a strategic meeting was convened to evaluate government policies and combat the scourge of human trafficking in the nation. Director General of NAPTIP, Binta Adamu Bello, stressed the necessity of enhanced collaboration and the formulation of effective strategies to tackle this crime.
Through this platform, we seek to ensure that our work remains targeted, effective, and in line with the global best practices.
The government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu remains steadfast in recognizing human trafficking a heinous crime.
The meeting emphasized the crucial role of interagency cooperation and information sharing to disrupt trafficking networks effectively.
Our mandate as the custodian of the protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in person, especially of women and children, is to enhance capacity to tackle these challenges.
We are going to partner deeply with the agency to be able to combat this heinous crime.
You investigate, you also attend to the needs of victims.
The gathering emphasized the essential contribution of community engagement. It also called for local initiatives to raise awareness among citizens about the risks of trafficking. Amina Baba Suleiman, NTA News.
Implementation of the Freedom of Information Act will enhance effective reportage, especially in exposing corrupt practices and shaping public opinion. A major point of discussion at a workshop on preventing corruption organized by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, and the Nigeria Union of Journalists. The report.
Many might be wondering what will be the outcome of a partnership between an agency almost operating in secrecy due to the nature of its mandate, which part of it requires investigation with an association of journalists. Well, the reason is not far-fetched. Journalists being the eyes and ears of the society, the ICPC chooses a reliable partner to get intelligence through investigative journalism.
The media plays a vital role in shaping public opinion and driving accountability. Investigative journalism exposing corruption, holds public officials accountable, and facilitates transparency.
The media are the driving force behind the dissemination of information to the masses, and in so doing, you give voice to the people.
It is important to point out that the media will be performing its role effectively by exposing corrupt tendencies and promoting the principles of open governance partnership. But how prepared are we as journalists? Are we not in our little ways aiding corruption by what we publish or not publish?
A critical initiative organized by the ICPC in collaboration with the Nigerian Union of Journalists, and of course with generous support of the MacArthur Foundation.
With the theme, The Power of Pen in the Fight Against Corruption, the workshop is a platform where stakeholders brainstorm and come up with best ways of ridding corruption in the country through effective journalism.
And still on corrupt practices, the investigative panel on alleged corruption and other violations against the Nigerian Correctional Service has completed the first phase of its work and submitted its report to the Minister of Interior. In its executive summary, the secretary to the committee, Dr. Uju Agomo, indicates that so far the committee has not found any evidence that Idris Okuneye, widely known as Bobrisky, spent his jail term outside the custodial center in Lagos. The committee, however, found other procedural breaches against officers in charge of the custodial center, bordering on preferential treatment.
Of Mr. Okuneye Idris, from the medium security Kirikiri, Lagos, to the maximum security Kirikiri, Lagos, being a first offender, violated Section 16.4a and Section 16.4b of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019.
Some other officers were also indicted for similar cases of alleged corruption and procedural breaches. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, has therefore vowed that recommendations of the committee will be implemented, while asking the committee to proceed with the second phase of its work, which is to look into possible reform of the service.
The Nigerian Correctional Service is a very, very key institution. And therefore, any form of corruption, any form of malfeasance, any form of abuse of power, torture, cruelty, inhumane and degrading treatment will never be accepted.
In continuation of its work, the committee is expected to hold public hearings from December 12th to the 20th in Abuja. We're talking tech matters, and the Communications Satellite Limited Nigecomsat says it remains committed to harnessing the potential of space technology and the broader innovation ecosystem capacity to provide solutions which will address national challenges. The Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Communications Satellite Limited, Jane Egertimide, made the commitment at an awards night to climax the 2024 Nigerian Satellite Week in Abuja. Oluseye Adiabo reports that NTA also received Best Supporting Media Award.
Awards night, which hosts the convergence of key players in Nigeria communication satellite sector.
In the last 1 year, you have continued along this line, attending events, but also leveraging on the place, understanding the place of the media in pushing the Nigecomsat narrative.
It is recognition moment for hard work and awards to supporters of the industry. The professionalism of the Nigerian Television Authority also catch global and national attention as it backs the Media Outstanding Award with the largest television network in Africa, pledging continuous projection of Nigecomsat.
I think NTA deserves to be appreciated.
We leverage on the facility of Nigecomsat, the space to transmit our programming through via the satellites to the nooks and crannies of this country.
For the Chief Executive Officer of Nigecomsat, it is a time for reflection as she reviewed the agency's efforts at promoting national technology, space innovation, and agenda setting.
We are celebrating this milestone means that we have raised the bar and it can only go higher. So this is our own way of saying thank you for being with us on this 1 year.
The 2024 Nigerian Satellite Week is themed Empowering Nigeria's Digital Future, Innovations in Satellite Technology and Entrepreneurship. In Abuja, Oluseye Adiabo, NTA News.
Thank you, Oluseye. NTA indeed is always raising the bar. It's time to join Michael in Lagos for more reports. Michael.
Good to see you, Najatu, and thanks for joining us. The Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, is working towards modernizing public procurement regulatory frameworks to meet evolving economic demands in the country, as well as simplifying and streamlining procurement processes with the deployment of e-government platform. These, among other initiatives, were made known by the Acting Director General of the Bureau, Olusegun Omotola, at the opening ceremony of the 2024 Mandatory Continuous Procurement Capacity Development Training Program in Lagos. Hingino John Adams reports.
For the next 3 weeks, these individuals from various government organizations across the nation will be learning the dynamics of procurement in order to navigate the landscape effortlessly as the profession undergoes reforms. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who was represented, and Acting Director General, Bureau of Public Procurement, urged participants to deploy their expertise and specialized knowledge going forward.
As we professionalize the procurement workforce, your role becomes even more significant. You will be at the forefront of establishing and maintaining professional standards and elevating the strategic importance of procurement within your respective organizations.
Through this program, we aim to address the critical challenges we face in our public procurement system, ensuring they are robust, transparent, and responsive to the needs of our people.
Stakeholders here believe for procurement fraud to be addressed, officers must operate on the tripod of diligence, integrity, and transparency.
This training is to create a pool of excellent and technically skilled practitioners that will help achieve economic growth, sustainable development,
The task before these participants, who will soon be converted or inducted as public procurement officers, is to raise the bar of excellence as they venture into public procurement in their various places of work. In Lagos, Henginu, John Adams.
A modernized civil service predicated on efficient service delivery is germane to the actualization of the present administration's renewed hope agenda, and the leadership of ministries, departments, and agencies are expected to galvanize efforts to achieve the ongoing reforms. The head of civil service of the Federation stated this at the opening of the mandatory training program for heads of some government parastatals at the Administrative Staff College of Nigeria. Joe Popola completes the report.
The mandatory training program for heads of ministries, departments, and agencies is one of the flagship programs of the Administrative Staff College of Nigeria, Badagry, Lagos. Now in its 11th edition, the course remains the bedrock of critical and result-driven civil service reforms in the country. Representative of the head of civil service of the Federation, Fatima Mahmood, was emphatic that equipping the chief executives of federal government agencies with requisite skills will hasten their understanding of public service ecosystem for result-driven leadership and seamless implementation of the Federal Civil Service Plan for 2025 and other critical reforms.
The training program is something we need because it helps to bring us all on the same page so that the CEOs who come from different backgrounds will understand the public service better.
Director General of ASCON says the thrust of the 2 weeks mandatory program is to ensure service delivery while setting an agenda for the development of policies and reforms in the civil service.
Course content is made up of modules which have been carefully selected to cover essential aspects of public sector management and leadership. It is my firm belief that the MTP will go a long way in actualizing Pillar 1 of the Federal Civil Service Strategy Implementation Plan.
For the participants, the benefits of the training are enormous.
For some of us that are coming from outside the civil service, it's been a wonderful experience.
To tell you the truth, I was here last, I think 20 years ago. I had a very positive impression about ASCON.
Representative of the head of service took time to assess facilities at ASCON to identify the institution's areas of strength and where interventions are needed. In Lagos, Joel Bukbola, NTA News.
Those are the...
Yes, you're watching NTA Network News. Let's now bring you up to speed with business development. Oil prices rose nearly 2% on Monday, recouping some of last week's more than 7% decline. With no let-up of fighting in the Middle East and expected Israeli retaliation on Iran worrying markets about supply from the region. Reuters reports that Brent crude futures were up 1.97% at $74.48 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were nearly 2.3% higher at $70.82 a barrel. Brent settled more than 7% lower last week, while WTI lost around 8%. Now, it's a bullish start for the equities market as investors reverse previous sentiment beginning the first weekday of trade on a strong footing. The all-share index climbed 0.63% to close at 98,690.61 points at the end of the first weekday of trading on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. A total of 405 million shares in 8,281 deals corresponding to a market value of 27.6 billion naira were traded. This reflects 13% improvement in volume, 130% improvement in turnover, and 23% improvement in deals. Equity capitalization increased to 59.8 trillion naira. United Bank for Africa recorded the highest volume of 138 million traded shares, followed by Sterling Bank, Access Holdings, and Nigerian Breweries. Meanwhile, Dow drops more than 350 points as Asia-Pacific markets mix. Let's see global stock markets.
Thanks for staying tuned. Sheda community in Kwali Area Council of the FCT has commemorated International Rural Women's Day with the theme Rural Women, Cultivating Good Food for All in an event organized by the Better Life Program for the African Rural Woman, a non-governmental organization which is highlighting the vital role these women play in local food systems and community development, as reported by Juliana Nicholas, who says more than 100 women assembled to display their culinary skills. The report is presented from our studios.
Rural women took center stage in Sheda community, demonstrating their culinary expertise and entrepreneurial spirit with food at the center stage. The event aimed to empower women, recognizing their contributions to food security and community development.
These women play a very vital role to ensure that there is improvement in food security. It's to amplify their voices, amplify their challenges, and shed light on the culture of the Sheda people.
The traditional cooking competition, also known as Akuya in Bagi language, not only showcased local talents, but also fostered community pride. As the competition came to a close, the audience were treated to a delicious buffet featuring the competing dishes. Excited with the competition, the women expressed their challenges and appealed for an inclusive environment where their passion for cooking and cassava making, known as fufu, can contribute to the development of the community.
And also thank government that does this program to us. But our challenge is that we need the government to come and give us the land which they will do this akpu.
It's a program that improves the life of the rural woman. They cook soup and the food within 25 minutes.
The winners took home cash prizes with a sense of pride and fulfillment that will linger for a long time.
The African rural women, always making an impact. Now, speakers at the 11th African Biblical Leadership Initiative have called on leaders to enhance their knowledge, show empathy, and engage in critical thinking to address challenges faced by citizens and promote development. Hamman Jabani reports that the conference has the theme Value-Based Leaders, Models for Africa.
African Biblical Leadership Initiative, established in 2010, aspires to become a non-partisan gathering of ideas and trusted voice through Africa that will bring transformation of value-based leadership, which will promote excellence in service delivery and advance economic development for the people. Speakers say having knowledge and understanding for leadership are important for leaders. This, they say, can be attained by reading, for not merely a pastime, but fundamental activity that cultivates the intellect, broadens perspective, and enhances decision-making capabilities. A true leader must be marked by willingness to give up personal preference.
The faith of Christianity here in not only in Nigeria, but throughout Africa, and it can extend to the rest of the world.
And I believe that in all situations, Paul said, we should pray and show humility. God will forgive us and heal our nation.
The value of justice is the foundation of godly leadership. It ensures fairness, equality, and protection for all.
We have all that is required for us to be successful and to be a continent that leads the whole world.
The 5-day conference will also look at value of justice, integrity, wisdom, and social harmony as sub-themes. Hamad Jabani, NTA News.
Now let's join our sports desk live with Badi Adele for highlights in the world of sports. Badi.
Many thanks, Naja, to 9 points from 8 games and extend their unbeaten run. In other results, coach Daniel Amokachi tasted defeat for the first time with Lobby Stars as they lost 4-2 away to Ikorodu Sete in Lagos. Shooting Stars of Ibadan recorded a slim 1-0 victory over Katsina United in Ibadan, with Aqua United and Rangers International settling for a goalless stalemate. And to the English Premier League, now where Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace, the match is still ongoing, about getting to the end now. Nottingham Forest currently are leading 1-0, courtesy of that goal from Chris Wood in the 65th minute. Away from the Premier League, let's go to the UEFA Champions League as attention we turn to the league phase matches that will be decided on Tuesday. Do not forget that those are match day 3 games, with AC Milan being at home to Club Brugge. Arsenal will entertain Shakhtar Donetsk, with Stuttgart playing away to Juventus. Reigning European champions Real Madrid will take on Dortmund, just as Paris Saint-Germain and PSV will trade tackles. And finally, Arina Sabalenka has risen to the top spot in the latest WTA rankings. And of course, she displaces Iga Swiatek, who has stayed there for 11 months. And of course, the Belarusian also retained the Australian Open title in January, as she tops the ranking for the 2nd time in her career. That'll be the much you can take on Sports Update. Let's now return to Najatu.
Thank you for those highlights, Badi. And that concludes the network news on NTA. But before we go, a recap of our top stories. House of Representatives emphasizes need for strong laws to drive national reforms, good governance. And that concludes the news for the night. Thanks for watching. Keep celebrating the African rural woman.